In 2020, I was invited to join a WhatsApp group by my friend. The name of the group was All the Single Ladies. All the Single Ladies. There were 4 of us in the group, and all of us had experienced a relationship breakup that year, all single. And it turns out that we weren't alone, because 1 in 5 people in the UK reported the complete breakdown of a relationship in the first year of the pandemic. Now, All the Single Ladies became a really important lifeline for me as I navigated my way through the messy after-show party of my breakup. And after some time had passed, began to dabble in the dating scene. And I was really grateful for the support of that group, because dating can be hard, right? Let's face it, with love bombing and ghosting and catfishing, just trying to wrap our heads around the terminology of dating alone can be exhausting. Now, the ending of a relationship, it can hurt, right? Let's face it, it's called heartbreak for a reason. The pain of relationship loss can be brutal. And actually, the brain has been found to register heartache in the same way that it registers physical pain. And that's because from the moment we are born, our brains are wired to form meaningful attachments with others. And a good quality, close relationship with another has been shown to be protective for both our mental and physical health. Now, in my psychology practice, I'm seeing more and more people who want to move on from a painful pandemic breakup. And they don't want to repeat of what's happened in the past. They want to build more meaningful and fulfilling relationships in the future. But how do we do that? Well, today I'd like to share with you 3 steps that can move us towards a better romantic future. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Okay, so step 1, explore your past relationship patterns. Okay. Do you often find yourself going for the type who doesn't text for a few days at a time? Or, in relationship, do you have a tendency to parent your partner and set rigid rules? Or perhaps you overlook your own needs completely in relationship, instead trying to shape-shift into the person you think you ought to be. Our relationship patterns are those behaviours that we repeat over and over again in our closest relationships, often without even realising. So before we move forward, we need to look back and we need to explore, with honesty, what has happened in our past close relationships. So what have been your best relationship experiences and why? What have been your worst relationship experiences and why? What are your biggest fears in relationship? And how do you tend to act when those fears are triggered? Now, it can be helpful to understand how our patterns start. So our style of relating is heavily influenced by the way that we were cared for when we were young. This sets the stage for how safe and secure we feel in our close relationships. And then each significant relationship that we go on to have in our teens and in adulthood will continue to shape us. Now, we can't change what has happened in the past. And if you didn't have a great experience of being cared for as a child, that certainly isn't your fault. But we can, and we should, take responsibility for how we show up now in our adult relationships. Now, I'd like to introduce Jordan, not his real name. For reasons that weren't Jordan's fault and were outside of his control, he learned at a really young age that others can't always be trusted to stick around. And that's because the really important people in his life were either absent or frequently unavailable or dismissive of his needs. Now, Jordan's best relationship experiences have involved the opposite of what happened in childhood. So there was a consistent level of contact. People showed up when they said they would. There was no game playing, which helped to build trust. And there was fun and affection in the relationship. Jordan's worst relationship experiences involved partners being cold and dismissive, or when he was being argumentative or shut off. Now, Jordan longs for closeness and connection, but this can sometimes feel threatening. And that's because his biggest fear in relationship is being abandoned. Makes sense, right? Given his early experiences. But when he starts to get close to somebody, he often finds that he's pushing them away, just in case they do leave him. And this pattern of behaviour, it's no longer serving him well. Not if he wants a close relationship. So the goal of this step is to really understand, what are my patterns when it comes to relationships? Because the stuff that hasn't worked out well for you in the past, it's going to have to change if you want more fulfilling relationships in the future. So when you've taken this step and you've done a deep dive into your relationship history, we're ready to move on to step 2. Identify your relationship values. Okay, so if you've explored your patterns in step 1 and thought, oh no, I'm a dating disaster. Number 1, don't be so hard on yourself. Number 2, the good news is that we can change our patterns. So what do your patterns tell you about what matters most to you in your close relationships? What are the essential ingredients that you need in order to feel safe and comfortable in a relationship? These are your relationship values. Commitment, independence, security, adventure, playfulness, humour, equality. These are all examples of common relationship values. And the goal of this step is to really get to know yours. Now, how often have you considered what you want in a partner? Maybe, like me, you spent time in the teenage years writing this long list of all the qualities that this future dreamboat was going to have. And it's never going to work out between me and George Michael. Maybe you still have your list. Maybe it's up there right now in your dating profile. And if it is, that's great, because it's helpful to know what we're looking for in a partner, right? But how often have you asked yourself who you want to be in a close relationship? I'm guessing not nearly as much. But you see, there's more to building a great relationship than simply focusing on what they need to be like. We need a second list, a list of how we want to show up and the type of relationship that we want to build. And this step, it's not about what will make other people like us more. It's about those qualities that matter most to us in our deepest connections with others. And when we allow these values to guide our behaviour, we can build incredible relationships. So what did Jordan's past patterns teach us about his values? Well, he values reliability and trust, fun and affection, warmth and consistency. So what are your relationship values? When you've figured this out, we're ready to move on to step 3. Commit to acting on your values. So the author, Alan Watts, said, you are under no obligation to be the same person that you were 5 minutes ago. We don't need to be defined by our past relationships for the rest of our lives. And we can build better relationships in the future. And to do this, it can be helpful to view love as an action rather than a feeling. You see, we don't just find love and great relationships. We co-create them. We build them together with our partner. We're not passive bystanders when it comes to love. So based on your values, how do you want to start showing up? For Jordan, He had to recognise when he was being pulled into an old and unhelpful pattern of relating. And he had to practice making different choices. For example, he went on a couple of dates with somebody who was blowing hot and cold, saying one thing, doing another. We know the type, right? So he made a conscious choice to stop seeing them and instead invest his dating time wisely in people who were consistent in their contact and didn't leave him hanging for days. And when he did meet somebody that he liked, he chose to show up as warm and fun and affectionate because that's the type of relationship that he wants to build. And when that person started to get emotionally closer, he recognised in himself that familiar urge to push them away. And he reminded himself that this is an old feeling that belongs in his past. And now, as an adult, he can build a safe relationship and let someone in. Now, to do this takes courage because we have to make a conscious choice to act on our values again and again and again, to act differently to how we've acted in the past, even when different feels unfamiliar and scary. So there we have it. 3 steps to a better romantic future. Number 1, explore your past relationship patterns. Number 2, identify your relationship values. And number 3, commit to acting on those values. In his song Anthem, Leonard Cohen sang, "There is a crack in everything. That's where the light gets in." The cracks of our past relationships can shine a light on what matters most to us and guide us towards that better romantic future. And building better relationships is as much about ourselves as it is finding the right partner. And yes, it takes conscious effort and bravery and a hard look in the mirror. But when you have a safe, meaningful, authentic, close relationship with another, wow, is that effort worth it?